theorem. But that's not the main reason that puts the smile on their face. It's all of those things. I'm surprised that with the current statistics about the rise of obesity in this country, wouldn't it also be ironic to find out that maybe the most important course that we're going to offer in the future is phys ed and health? And where are we in that? We're in desperate trouble with that. It just makes no sense.
I'd like to turn this over to you as the audience to tell us, are we in trouble? And secondly, how do we restore that confidence?
Okay. All right. So, actually, I think is Representative Jones still here? Oh, Representative Brad Jones was here, and so we appreciate him coming by. What we're going to do here is, if you have a question, I'll recognize you. Once you come up to the mic, either make your comment, direct a question to either one of the administrative staff or to one of the school committee members, and we'll try to answer it best we can. And I see Trish in the back. Come on, please.
Patricia Colella. I guess I start off by saying that I no longer have a child in the North Reading public school system. I've listened, and that's her. She's a sophomore at Springfield College, and I also sat on the school committee. For those who don't know, I'm still on the high school council. I graduated from North Reading High School, and I've lived in North Reading all my life. I received an incredible education in North Reading, and so did my daughter. From kindergarten at the batch to graduation. She attends a college that I think some of the things that you've said, their motto, so to speak, that's on their crest is spirit, mind, and body at Springfield College on an inverted pyramid. And that inverted pyramid, some would ask, is why is it inverted? It's inverted because it's a heck of a lot harder to balance a pyramid on its point than it is to on its flat bottom. Humanics, educating the whole child, whether it be math, science, English, history, foreign language, arts, music, athletics. All of that, all of those things are the things that my daughter and I, so many years ago, took out of North Reading High School. And while I was on the school committee, I saw it coming. We dealt with it back then. We dealt with the cuts. It was painful. It's even more painful now. And I had no intention of coming here tonight. And I was sitting at home watching, and I finally just got up and said, I can't just sit here. When you talk about what's going forward when they leave North Reading High School, these are the kids that are going to be adults that are going to run this country, run our businesses, take care of human beings, whether it be in my daughter's field of rehabilitation of disabilities or whatever it may be. They're going forth, and it's our responsibility to give them the tools that they need to get there, from kindergarten on. And I've been known to say, you need to look forward and take the blinders off, and not just consider how many kids are in a third grade class, but how many kids are in a calculus class at North Reading High School. When my daughter was in a calculus class of 31 students, or when she was in an AP biology class with 26 students when there were 24 lab stations. She left North Reading with all she needed to go to Springfield College. She is Dean's List. She's in a very, very difficult program. She's succeeding. She's running track. She's succeeding. Her athletics, it all plays a role. There were also also the kids that graduated with Stephanie in 2006 who are in major music programs at Commonwealth College at UMass or at Providence College, or art students at Berkeley, or wherever it may be. When we take those things away from those kids, you lose the whole student. And it was something that I think, you know, we all looked at, you know, in my time on the school committee and as parents from, you know, having young children, that you try to raise the whole human being, not just the mathematician, not just the historian, not just the English major, or not just the science major. And when those things are taken away from them, the breadth and depth of what was available to her and her peers, and to me and my peers, when I graduated from this school system, is falling apart. And it pains me to watch it happen, because I had the kid that in middle school, she was playing AAU basketball, and she was being courted by all these private schools to, you know, come with us and we'll give you free tuition and you can play basketball, you can play soccer, or you can run track. And she said, no, I'm going to North Reading High School. And I couldn't have been prouder. I don't want to see that. I would hate to think I would have been in a position to say, you're going to that private school, because you're not going to get what you need from North Reading High School. And everything flows up, and I understand that. And it's going to break down in different places. And we can't let that happen. But we also have to, you know, also take into consideration as we move forward in this process, we still need to have our streets plowed. We still need to have those potholes fixed. We still need to have adequate police and fire and protection and everything else that general government puts forth. And it's a very, very difficult situation, not only for North Reading, but for the entire Commonwealth. It's broken. It's broken at the state level. Education has been broken at the state level for quite some time, and it needs to be fixed. And I applaud all these people who have come forward with Stanford Children and NRUE and all of that, who have come forward and, you know, put their best foot forward to speak up for the children. We also need to speak up for general government, and, you know, there has to be a balance there. You know, John, I sit with you on high school council, and it's painful every time we have to have the conversation. And Mr. Hodges, I know, you know, you had Stephanie when she was here. I know everything that goes on in this. Just something that seems so nothing is international cultures. Takes these kids outside of North Reading when they're at a developmental stage where they're just starting to realize that there's a whole big world out there that doesn't revolve around them, and it doesn't revolve around what I used to call the Great Wall of North Reading. And kids need to know that there isn't a Great Wall of North Reading, there's something outside. I applaud what you're doing. It's a tough job, and I hope that the entire town of North Reading sees that this is a great place to live, and we have to take care of the education of our children. We also have to take care of the welfare of our citizens. And with that, I'll leave it.
Thanks, Trish. Anyone else like to be recognized? Yes, gentlemen.
Hi, my name is Douglas Tenney. I have two kids currently in the school program. One is in first grade, one's in sixth. And I have a 3-year-old who will be joining in about 3 years. So I have a long-term vested interest in the quality of the school system in North Reading. Mr. Clean will know my elder son quite well. Okay, what I was going to start in with, and it's most of it you know, in the news we hear about the need for increased competitiveness around the world. Colleges are reporting the need to have remedial programs for incoming freshmen. In the news, they're discussing about the increase the length of the school day in Boston to a full day. Yet, in North Reading, we're talking about a status quo program of half a day on Wednesdays. you know, this just can't go on. We have kids, I mean, the school system, we need to have a quality school system to raise kids so that the school can fulfill its purpose of preparing kids to be productive members of society. But the question becomes, you know, we've raised quite a few quality issues here of individual explicit examples. But how are we going to go forward and sell this program to the entire community of North Reading? You have people here who have a vested interest and a concern for their kids and the quality of their school system. But how are we going to go forward with a campaign to sell it to the rest of the people? To the 18% of the people who are now going to be additional people who are sending their kids to private school? To the parents, to the people who are trying to worry about the potholes? How do we go forward and really lift it up and come up with a program that sells it to the community? You know, I mean, a lot of good issues have been brought up. But if I, you know, had no concern about it, what do I care about the special needs? When I, you know, how do I, you know, sell it to the people that it's in their best interest that we give them a school system that is top quality? And unfortunately, I mean, we have a really tough, you guys have a really tough sell. I mean, it's much harder we're hearing about a possibility of recession. If you don't think you're in a recession right now, I mean, what is a recession? So you got parents who, you know, you got these parents now who are now sending their kids to private school. The potholes, I mean, you look at some of the roads now, and not just in North Reading, but all over. I mean, what are we going to do to get a program that sells the schools in North Reading? I mean, if we're going to talk about an $800,000 proposition override, we just bought a new school not that long ago. How are we going to convince them to go back to the public and say, we really need this money? I don't have the answer. I'm just trying to ask the question so that when we come back in the end of November and we say, this override passed. Well, how did it pass? How did you inspire the town of North Reading to actually decide to get out and look beyond the fact that the value of their houses are going down? How are we going to do this? That's why I ask. You got politicians out there getting on phones and inspire them. They have no idea. They get on there, they say, send me money so I can help lead you. That's what we're trying to do. How do we do that? That's what I ask.
I have some answers. I don't know if any of the community members would like to answer
I know that I was part of an override that passed and an override that failed, and both times we did the same thing. We knocked on doors, we wrote letters, we formed committees, we answered questions, we held forums. One failed and one passed, operational. I've been involved in the overrides for the building committees. And, you know, little school, hood school, no problem. That failed before it passed. So it's very hard to say that there is a guideline for passing overrides, but one thing you can say is it takes an army of people that are convinced we need it. You have to believe first that you need it. And when that clicks in your mind, you'll be amazed at how many people you'll chat with at the wine social, down at the Tom's Club, or in the grocery store line. You will chat about it once it's in your heart that you're committed to put the money forward and that it's the right thing to do. Other than that, we do need an override committee. So, before you leave, we cannot be a part of that. You must form a group, an override committee. You must file for it. You must pick a leader that can lead that group. That's the number one thing we need before we even go into town meeting. We need that planned and organized.
There's a couple of things, and this becomes a broken record. But I like to always go back to, and I don't like to go back to it, but I like to reference our standing in the state. 13th from the bottom of every public school district in this state.
351.
And I say to myself, is this what our kids deserve? First I ask how we got there, because I just don't understand it. I don't understand a community with people, interested people over here tonight, and other people who I see every day in this community, in youth sports, and the other activities involved in, many with kids. I don't understand how we got to this position. I mean, in the towns below us, I can tell you, most of us wouldn't want to live in most of them.